Now, to all y'all subscribers of the afterlife theory, right? I feel like this one needs all of y'all coming closer to the screen right quick. Y'all let me know what you actually think happens after somebody dies. You know what I'm saying? It's a very interesting, it's an interesting topic that I would grapple with from time to time. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when I'm bored, just to, you know, see if I can come up with a interesting theory that'll have me, I don't know, feeling a little confident about the afterlife. Sometimes I just like, you know, go back and forth, you know, on the idea based off of just like what to choose to be afraid of, or what to choose not to be afraid of. What to you know, establish as real, and what to dismiss. You feel what I'm saying? It's a deep layered topic, and I'm interested to get into it. Right? Let's do it.
Now walking with the Nina, I do think that karma's a great teacher. Cause what you get, you take, so fuck go at a feature. I don't deal with trash and I don't work either.
Yes, boys and girls. Yeah, shadow work in the background, Joe. And right here, right, we're zooming into the afterlife tier list. Duncan Clark, give it up. New entry, by the way, Duncan Clark. I don't know, that that display picture right there. It's giving what you call this, AI, but Duncan Clark, yo, seems legit. Let's find out, right?
Do we continue to exist after the death of the body?
That's the
and
greatest
if we do,
question.
What would that look?
That's the greatest question of all time. Hold on, let me just switch my shit up so we're good to go, and boom.
Like, I'm not suggesting that I know the answer to this question,
What are you
and I also
suggesting?
don't want to disparage any religious beliefs that help people come to terms with death. That's not really my bag.
What are you trying to do?
This video is just going to be analyzing some of the possibilities and trying to figure out whether they're good or bad.
Yep. Okay, let's do it. Nothing.
You die, and that's it. Nothing. You cease to exist. Death is the permanent end of experience. Eternal nothingness. This is the most straightforward scenario. Death is the end of life.
Alright, so, okay, no. First of all, let me just come out with, like, my own theory. My own, just idea of what I also think happens. But now, since the cat is out the bag, yes, I do share the I share in the sentiment that nothing happens. Yeah, we go back to nothingness. But then now, what makes that kind of exploration interesting is what we define as nothingness. You know what I'm saying? Considering because at the same time I am a realist, right? So I do consider everything that is in existence. You understand what I'm saying? And just existence in general, being part of everything that does exist. And when we I feel like, now this is my subjective view, when we dive deep into everything that is in existence, everything in its eternal aspect, right, where it's like everything that never ends, even when we talking numbers, even when we talking esoteric senses, I don't know, just perceptions, you know what I'm saying, fantasies, whatever, everything in its entirety. Obviously one mind, physical mind, mine's and yours physically, right, we wouldn't be able to fathom the concept or the idea of eternity. You know what I mean? But I feel like since that's shapeless and formless, and I'm talking everything inclusive, you understand what I'm saying? It has no shape, it has no form, it's nothing. Boom, it's nothing. So I may consider that as nothingness, like the never-ending potential possibility of existence. Right? That would be my version of nothing. You know what I mean? So now when we're like, yo, we return back to nothingness, we return back to, right? You piece that dot together. We return to that whole we return to eternity, man. Okay, at least that's my little idea, you know what I mean? So now another person can think of nothingness and just like see a black hole or just like some blackness, or I don't know. Since Valley, that is the general idea of, you know, what nothingness is represented by, right? Color wise. Like, yo, close your eyes, what do you see? Nothing, and it's just black. It's actually not black. Yeah, it's something else. It's not black.
So the idea that there is life after death is obviously false. Our fear of death is biologically programmed into us, and to an extent it's unavoidable. But maybe philosophy can help us reason our way out of this situation.
Let's see.
Is death bad? Well, you might say that someone dying is bad, because they're not around anymore.
Right.
That person was there, and now they're not.
So
but I don't think this is actually
so like as in it's bad, as in it's a negative experience. Right? Like you're going through it from the loss of this individual.
the key to the badness here. Let me hit you with this thought experiment. Let's say your best friend in the whole world is this guy George.
Okay, George, how are you?
Spent years studying astrophysics.
Nice one.
And he's about to go on an expedition to the Andromeda Galaxy to do research there for the rest of his life.
To do it.
You can't follow him there, and once he leaves, there will be no way to communicate with him ever again. That's a bit of a bummer. But now, let's say that instead of leaving, the rocket George is taking explodes immediately after launching, killing him instantly. The outcome is the same from your perspective. George is gone, and you'll never see him again. But the situation where the rocket explodes definitely seems worse. So the issue isn't just—
Yo. Ah, shit. I know we are so early into the video, and this is like, yo, multiple freaking pauses. Look, forgive me. I just, you know, the one thing that I wonder a lot, right? And the one thing that I am nervous about when it comes to dying, not like death, but like dying, how it all ends, so to speak, right? What has me wondering the most, and what has me sort of kind of nervous, is just, I don't know, man, the sensation, right? Not even the sensation, but the perception, the sight, the feeling of that moment when, let's say, the body completely disintegrates, and you're probably, let's say you're probably involved in one of those, like, yeah, just like the example of your best friend right here, right? So from his point of view, what sensations is he feeling? Like, what emotion is there to that? Like, at what moment when the explosion happens and he literally feels every aspect of his body just separating, right? Like to you are the best friend. You're like, yo, you're sad, yeah, you're feeling the regular thing. I'm talking about, what is the best friend that just like, whose body just bursted open? Like, what is he, like, what's the feeling in his reality? Like, what's his real experience at that moment, right? When that rocket blows up like that. And does he now, does his soul, consciousness, whatever, leave his body before his body gets to blowing up into pieces and blah blah, or does it happen after the fact? So does he feel all those sensations of pain or whatever, or does he die, you know, from the shock of, oh shit, I'm about to die, right? So it's these kind of like thoughts that have me like, yo, I just hope my shit is like fast and soft, man, sweet, you know what I'm saying? Well, not necessarily fast, because if it's sweet, it's kind of like you're enjoying the whole thing, like you switching off, you dying, you know what I'm saying? So like, yo, like my shit, like I'm telling you, my shit is finna be like the sweetest ever, bro. My transition, oh my god, I feel like I'm finna pass on before my body does. Facts. However that looks like, or at least like I'd like to go out like that. You know what I'm saying? Like in your sleep, bro, like chilled as fuck, like you tired from a long day, maybe spending time with like your loved ones. You know what I mean? giving all of them love and blessings. And, you know, one of those ones where you know you're going, but like them last days where like even your loved ones testify that, yo, that nigga like had nothing but a smile on his face like for the past 5 days before he passed. You know what I'm saying? I feel like at that point, like you will have understood like really what's up. You will have made peace with the reality you think, right, you're about to face. I think, rather than one of these violent ones where it's like fuck, or like, yo, you know what I'm saying, like crazy accident, you know what I'm saying, like, come on.
Just that George isn't around anymore. There's something important about the fact that George died.
What?
Okay, so instead of thinking about George, let's think about me. Death is bad because I won't exist anymore. And personally, I really like existing. Existing is pretty epic. Is it bad for me though? When I'm dead, I won't exist. So who would it be bad for?
Exactly. The ones that are behind, bro.
It's easy to think that when we die, we enter into a kind of blackness, or void, and we place ourselves into it. It's as if we sink into this pit of nothingness, and we're trapped there forever. We end up in this strange realm, with no thoughts, no sensations, no experience, and this is something that we somehow witness for eternity. But this doesn't really make sense. This is reifying nothingness. The comedian Norm Macdonald once said,
"And then I came to a realization that you and death will never intersect. As long as you're here, death is not. As long as death is there,
you're not." Okay.
Yeah, but since you know it's coming.
Oh, but you don't want that.
He got this idea from the Greek philosopher Epicurus, who had a similar quote. "So death, the most terrifying of ills, is nothing to us, since so long as we exist, death is not with us. But when death comes, then we do not exist. It does not concern either the living or the dead, since for the former it is not, and for the latter are no more." Okay, but does it actually have to be bad for me for it to still be bad? Things can be bad in different ways. Putting my hand on a hot stove is bad because I'm experiencing the pain and the badness directly. Burning my hand is immediately and intrinsically bad. But let's consider a different scenario. Let's say I spend my evening scrolling TikTok. The whole time I'm mildly entertained. It's a neutral experience. But what if my friends had also invited me out that night? I was scrolling TikTok alone in my room, instead of cracking a few cold ones with the boys, which would have been way more fun. That time I spent scrolling wasn't intrinsically bad, but it was bad compared to what I could have been doing instead. This example illustrates the deprivation.
So it was bad based off of the principle of FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Count of why death might be bad.
Right?
Not existing isn't bad in an inherent way, but it's bad compared to all the fun, meaningful experiences I could have.
That you're missing out on.
If I continue to exist. Okay, but let's take this non-existing thing a little further. What if I never existed in the first place? Would this be bad? Well, it seems bad for me because I do exist now, but this runs into some major problems.
Yeah, like as in if you've never existed before, like what's bad about it? No, all the things that, you know, all the fun things that you could experience while being here, but I never was here, so what's actually bad about me being there in the first place? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not even missing out on anything in the first place. Duncan Clark, ladies and gentlemen, what?
Think about all the possible people that could exist. Let's look at our current generation right now. Let's say there are about 5 billion people who could reproduce,
Right.
half men and half women.
Cool.
Each man could technically create a new person with each woman.
Yep.
And beyond that, every single egg-sperm combination of each of those pairs would also create a different person.
Right.
If a different sperm won the race, I wouldn't be the same person I am now.
Yeah.
I would be my sibling. As a rough calculation, that's 2.5 billion women times 30 years of reproduction times 12 eggs times 2.5 billion men times 50 years of reproduction times a conservative 365 ejaculations per year times about 40 million sperm per ejaculation. That works out to this number, 15 with 32 zeros. And this is still only
15 with 32 zeros, that's... What the
Be a
number,
tiny
right?
fraction. All of those potential people could also have children with each other. This could go on for potential generation after potential generation. If the deprivation account is true, you have to feel sorry for this infinite amount of people who never got the chance to exist.
Oh, yeah.
That seems like a bit too much emotional labor for me. Okay, but we can just fix this by adjusting the deprivation account a little bit. Instead of a deprivation of life, it's a deprivation of a life that actually existed at some point. This seems to have filled the hole I just poked in the argument. But there's still a problem. The section of time after your death isn't the only section of time you don't exist. You also don't exist before you're born. But who really cares about that? If you told me that I'm only going to live to age 50, I would be bummed out, and I would wish that I could live longer.
Why?
But I don't wish that I was born 50 years earlier. We seem to care more about existing in the future than existing in the past. So to sum things up, not
Even more than existing in the present. A lot of people are concerned about the future. There's even, like, I'd say there's even, you know, a number that's just as high as people who are concerned about the future. People who are concerned about the past too. That's why a lot of people, because I feel like that could be the cause of a whole lot of, you know, depressed minds, depressed people. People are just living in the past a lot.
non-existence after death is a
But the future one, yeah. It's now that's a lot.
complicated issue. Personally, I'm sympathetic to the deprivation account. I like existing a lot. But this is also the perspective of a guy who exists, which is definitely biased.
Okay, cool. So now, are you able to tap into the aspect of you that never existed? Try pull up that memory. Saying, okay, do I then have anything to compare this existing, this existing version of me with? You know what I mean? Because obviously you're gonna be like, yo, it's everybody that exists, for the most part, is gonna say, yes, existing. I prefer existing. I'd rather exist, continue existing. But then, you know what I'm saying? Like, where's the aspect of you that never existed so that you can have, like, a comparison point?
I'll put nothingness in B tier.
Heaven.
Ranking heaven in a video like this is a little tricky. Religions that describe a heavenly realm are usually pretty vague about what it's actually like there.
Yep.
It's described as this perfect, beautiful place
Right.
with no pain and suffering, where we can live in bliss and worship God for eternity. But is this kind of immortality something we actually want? The deprivation account might say yes. Not existing is bad, because you'll miss all the fun. So if we live forever, that would be ideal. Well, not exactly. At a certain point, there might not actually be anything interesting for existence to give you. You wouldn't be deprived of anything.
Yep.
Imagine a classic idea of heaven. We all turn into angels and spend eternity singing psalms together or something.
Now, you know why that actually will not happen? It's because you'll find, a few people up there, right? With that whole gathering happening. People that will now turn woke and just now question the whole agenda of everybody just worshipping this supreme being. It'll just hit them out of nothing. They'll be like, no, actually, why do we even have to do this? This is oppression. No, this is misogyny. No, why is he the only one to? No, I also want to, you know what I'm saying? And then you have a whole crowd of just probably, females for the most part. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe even males that are like, man, yeah, I get the fact that, we're all males here, but nah, I feel like I wanna transition. Bro, come on. You know what I'm saying, though? For as long as, because now we do have to consider free will as a thing. You understand what I'm saying? So now you telling me the people that are up there worshiping for eternity are gonna be so deprived of their free will that that's all that they'll have to do? No, because now it'll go against, God's creation of free will. Like the reality of the fact that he created human being to have free will. Quote unquote, whatever that means though. But then, because now saying everybody will free willingly choose to worship for eternity. Like, yo, considering like the nature of how God created man, bro, it's like nothing. You don't do the same thing for eternity. That's why even seasons change. Nature changes. You are nature, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it's biologically, naturally just impossible for you to do the same thing for eternity. Feel me? So by the time you have chosen to, yes, I'm saying the reality of, you know, free willingly choosing to worship, you know, this God for eternity. Yes, that is a reality that may just happen, but then it's like by the time that happens, is it your free will? No, you're influenced by something, by the fact that if you don't, you're gonna burn in eternal fire. Like something is drawing you there. So is it really free will? Alright, my fault. The yap ends there.
Singing psalms is probably pretty fun to do for a while.
Okay.
But doing that for all of
That's
eternity.
what I'm saying. What am I talking about? Because this is it, right? Like, what?
Seems a little excessive.
Saying?
What kind of life would be worth living forever? This isn't just 100 years, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, or 1,000,000,000 years. This existence has no end.
Oh.
There are some things I love doing. Eating lamb vindaloo, solving Minesweeper puzzles, listening to Beach House, whatever. But after the first 100,000 years of doing that, it would probably get a bit stale. Okay, well let's say you take a different approach, and you try to make the most of your time. You spend 1,000 years writing novels, 1,000 years painting. You learn how to play every single instrument at an expert level. You will always run out of things to do. At some point, you will have done it all. You might be able to fix this problem with some kind of amnesia system. Let's say you get bored after about 1,000 years of doing stuff.
What happens?
At this point, you start to lose your memories and forget what you did a few hundred years ago.
But like, don't the memories just like stack up to a point where like your brain just like fries and yeah, but like what is the capacity of the human like brain in terms of storage of memory and shit like that? Because you know, I don't think I want to do the type of homework where, you know, we find out whether 100-year-old people that have existed. You know, there's people that have pushed to 100 years. Yo, that would have been capped. No, to like 100 plus years, right? I wonder how their memories were like working after reaching that like century mark, right? Of living.
Years ago. By the time you're at 2 billion years, you could barely remember what you spent your time doing as a young 100 million year old angel. At this point, you've changed completely. You have different tastes, a different personality, and you spend your time doing things that you wouldn't imagine doing before. But is this really worth it? There is continuity between the young angel me and the old angel me, but is it still really me? I don't even remember the previous me existing at all. My personality is totally different too, and I'm probably hanging out with different angel friends. I don't think I'd want something like this. Alright, but maybe instead of having to try to do interesting things or entertain yourself,
what would you do?
You just experience complete bliss for eternity.
Oh, shit.
Maximum pleasure. This seems
but even that would be redundant.
appealing at first,
redundant.
but it also reminds me of something.
What?
There was a study where they attached electrodes to a rat's brain that released an intense burst of pleasure. They hooked this up to a button that the rat could press whenever it wanted.
But like, okay, here's my thing with like feeling bliss your whole life, right? Because another thing, it's like that's also what religious texts and things like that be selling to people, or be directing towards people, right? Is the fact that an eternity of bliss, eternal life, things like this, right? You know, doesn't that also get redundant after a while? Like, you get so, because like, okay, look at where I'm coming from. Like, you won't want to do shit else but just feel that. Now, when we're talking about people that feel nothing but pleasure, bro, let's also bring into the conversation crackheads. Know what I'm saying? People that just numb themselves with like drugs, alter their state of consciousness to a point where, yes, like the drugs has fucked up side effects from the outside looking in, but in their minds they're feeling this bliss that we're talking about, right? Or that people probably, but like they feel, because now another thing, why do they keep on going to these drugs? Why do they keep on going to these, you know, substances and shit? it gives them that feeling of bliss. Like when they escape into those sensations and getting high and all of that. That's that feeling. You know what I mean? Now consider a person that feels that constantly. You know what I'm saying? It's complete neglect of the body completely. Because these people, what makes like a bum in the streets who's mad, addicted to a whole bunch of substances and all that kind of thing, just to keep themselves feeling happy and feeling, you know, like they're escaping the pressures and the matrix, whatever the reason, right? The fact that you see them still operating and they still come and ask for like a buck or two from you, or they want to come help you out so that you can give them a little change, spare change, whatever. The fact that they do that is because they're being sober. That feeling of bliss is going away. They start feel reality again. It's pressure, it's heavy, it's fuck, this, that, oh shit. I actually gotta eat and feed my body. It's like, yo, now imagine if they was on that kind of sensation for eternity. You know what I'm saying? Motherfucker, like, yo, I wouldn't know how to put it, but like, you probably start seeing the bacteria chewing through the clothes, bruh. That's how maybe their bodies would be so molded because they don't even take no baths. Nigga, they wouldn't even stand up from the position they at. Like, oh my god, I don't know. They'd be so lazy to even like scratch an itch that's just like, you know, on their knee or some shit. Like, they wouldn't like get to any of that because the sensations, they're so unbothered. So basically the feeling of just like eternal bliss, that's an out of body experience. That's not what the body is designed to feel. You know, for eternity, that is, right? Definitely, yes, you can like feel bliss and, you know, put meaning to whatever bliss is for you. You can feel that shit. You ask people, you know what I'm saying, some people like, yo, what's the absolute feeling of bliss? I'll tell you, it's a feeling of sex, you know, when you bust a nut. To somebody else, it's like, you know, following your religious text and, you know, yeah, like molding your life according to whatever it has for you and shit like that, you know. They can take on the world, you know, but for as long as that's also happening, like their day is like, you know, they're happy, right? But forever, you get where I'm going with this. So it's like, yeah, let's like thinking about it deeply. That's where I'd be going with like this whole thing of like trying to feel bliss forever. You know what I'm saying? Trying to be in a state of euphoria forever. The same way that probably the, you know, texts promise, you know, as an afterlife.
As you might expect, the rat just sat there pressing the button over and over until it died. But I'm not
until it just sat there doing nothing else, just pressing the button. You know what I'm saying? For the feeling of bliss constantly. Just nothing else. Cause you know what I'm saying? The rat's body needs nutrients to go on. It didn't eat, it just kept pressing the thing. You know what I'm saying? It didn't like, you know, hustle for the energy, like, you know, do what it has to do to give its body the energy to sustain itself. So obviously it's gonna die.
a rat. I'm a human. And it might sound arrogant, but I somehow feel like I'm above that kind of thing. I'd probably really enjoy the intense bliss for the first few thousand years. Yeah. But then I'd start to think to myself, is this all there is? Okay, so here's a heaven I think would actually be desirable. You can hang out there as long as you want, but the door is open. Once you're satisfied with all the things you've done, you can peace out. This scenario seems pretty good. The problem is, we don't really know which of these situations heaven would actually be, and some of these cases are just totally made up to fix the boredom problem. I think the standard understanding of heaven is just that you live forever in a perfect place.
Nice.
If that's the type of heaven we're working with, I'm not a huge fan.
Oh shit.
C tier.
Oh. Even with this, same thing. Who's freaking burning for all of eternity, bro? Be real, bro. Because I'm telling you, there's gonna come a point in in this eternity where you're like, bruh, is this all there is? Like you'll be burning, right? 100 years, what the hell, yeah, no. Suffer, you go, you know what I'm saying? 100,000 years, you're like, okay. Is this it? Like, yo, like, is this all there is? Like, you know what I'm saying? Nigga, 1,000,000 years, you even know how to, you got the tactics on how to just like work through that shit. Like, yeah, I know I'm burning, bro, but like, yo, I don't know, let me just hustle a little meat, bro. Maybe I'll just like barbecue it on this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Just fry it real quick. See how that tastes. You know what I'm saying? You're not even concerned about the burning and everything. Come on, bro. You're so
Inferno,
redundant.
the first part of Dante's Divine Comedy.
Oh shit.
Is probably
I tried reading that book. Never finished it though. Shit.
probably the most famous depiction of hell. It has 9 circles, filled with horrible punishments like boiling in pools of blood or being submerged in frozen lakes.
Nice.
Even Buddhism has different types of hells with intricate punishments, like the realm of the hungry ghosts.
Right.
There are a lot of different depictions of what hell would actually be like, so I won't spend too much time on the details here.
Nice.
At least in the biblical tradition, it's important to understand that hell is a very complicated issue.
Okay.
From what I gather, a lot of the colloquial understanding of hell comes from medieval art and literature, and isn't actually directly based on anything the Bible says.
What is it based on?
You ever sat down and read this thing? Technically, we're not allowed to go to the bathroom.
Some people believe that when the Bible says eternal fire, it might not necessarily mean eternal torment.
Okay.
It could be that you had a soul, but it gets destroyed if you're a sinner. That would make this situation similar to nothingness.
Like, what does the destroying mean in this context, right?
You don't experience suffering for eternity. You're just denied entry into the afterlife. But for this video, I'll consider the most common interpretation of hell: some kind of eternal suffering. If that's hell, I don't think my placement here will be particularly surprising. It's safe to say that suffering is bad. It's like burning my hand on a hot stove, like I mentioned earlier. We have an immediate, absolute aversion to the conscious experience of suffering. It's a fundamentally negative state of being. And not only does suffering suck, but our damnation would, in fact, be eternal. When I talked about heaven, I came to the conclusion that immortality itself comes with downsides, even if you're free to do whatever you want, or experience intense bliss. Here, all the bad things about eternity are combined with a constant state of suffering. Bottom tier.
Damn. Becoming a ghost?
Ghosts, apparitions, phantoms, specters, spirits.
Ghouls. Son of a bitch.
Surprisingly, something like 18% of Americans believe they've had an encounter with a ghost.
Really?
If you were a ghost, you would be condemned to exist in the realm of the living. No clipping through surfaces and witnessing your loved ones going through their lives.
Yeah.
Maybe this is some kind of limbo state before you go to some afterlife.
Maybe.
But for now, we'll just consider the ghost life. The only way you can communicate with people is with a Ouija board, which, by the way, is
Wait, okay, look, I'm not gonna lie. Let me just tell you this one thing. Go on real quick, right? Like, when it comes to a ghost, right? A ghost. Is that what I'm saying? So, for me, a ghost, you know what I mean? It's like a shell of a body without the soul in it. So, for me, an NPC can be a ghost. Is that what I'm saying? An NPC can be a ghost. Somebody that has no, like, that adopts people, like other people's character, like as in mannerisms, and you depend on being like somebody else so bad. You understand what I mean? You literally become a ghost. Like, you're lost in terms of your own journey. You cannot even tap into your own inner world, so to speak, and work with that. Every time that happens, it's a never-ending cycle of just discomfort. Let me put it like that, right? You look into your inner world, it's nothing but, you know, the damage that you went through. Nothing but the pressures that you have to carry. You know what I'm saying? Difficult questions. And guess what? Everybody has these kind of things going on inside of them, right? So by default, bro, like, people do inherit, this is according to me now, these ghosts, aka I wouldn't say a demon is a ghost, right? I'd say that, hold on, let me you know what I'm saying, in terms of the demon talk, let me leave that for another kind of time. Okay, the ghost is when, you know what I mean, you actually refuse to look at that inner world, work with it, and become your like, not higher self, that's a fucking corny term, like a kind of self that understands what's going on with you better, like with your soul, with what makes you tick. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you tap in better when you face these kind of these patterns, man, psychological patterns, habits, things that have you hooked and addicted to some shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is just in shallow terms, you know what I mean, just putting it on the, like, as per on the surface type shit, you know what I mean. This shit can get deep, you feel me? So now, but the more you refuse to do that, you end up developing the mind of you know, what's being done on earth, you feel what I'm saying? So whatever environment that you're a part of, you're gonna emulate. It's gonna be easy for you to emulate whatever is going on in your external environment. So the friends that you keep, you know what I'm saying, you're always gonna follow suit, you feel what I mean? And what it, like, you get, yeah, I don't want to get too deep, because now this shoe is gonna fit for a lot of y'all, and I don't want it to become personally about, you know what I mean? So, you know, you adopting characteristics that you believe are of a morally high ground, you know what I'm saying, but you see that done from another person's perspective. You don't know that perspective. You don't know that person's perspectives on, well, their history, their perspectives on religion, education. You're just adopting characteristics and mannerisms, thinking it's the right thing to do. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the time, it's the kind of things that you try and do, and then it just backfires, you know, and then it just goes the wrong way. That's how you know you're actually a ghost, bro. You actually don't utilize your own mind, your own visions. You're not a visionary at that point. You understand what I'm saying? That's what a ghost is. And by the time, I feel like you adopting the characteristics of a ghost, and that having happened for like your whole life, right? That's the afterlife that you're adopting. I don't know if y'all get me. I told you, this shit it does really get deep like that. Like, in terms of just my POV about it. You know what I'm saying? And then now when we talking demons, right? Like demons is really, like, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's the kind of things that you have to face, just like how I said, you know what I mean? They're the things that you gotta face to, you know, because, okay, you face an enemy, right? So to speak, an enemy. What do I mean by an enemy? An enemy is like whatever aspect to yourself that makes you resist reality, and how reality can make you a better person. So aka your traumas of the past. You know what I'm saying? You have to use the shell of the human, the brain, the organs, the body, the mind, right? To kind of just like dive deep into the experiences, you know, that created the traumas. So the trauma itself, right? The insecurity itself, the demon itself. You know what I mean? That sharpens your shell, your body. You know what I mean? For you to utilize it to actually understand yourself better. You know what I mean? See where your strengths, weaknesses lies, your boundaries, your limitations, where those lie. You know what I'm saying? Instead of looking at your external environment being like, oh, I want to be like that person, oh, you know, pick me type shit, type talk. Oh, I told you I was gonna get deep. Fuck yeah, I told you I was gonna get deep. I told you it could get deep, but then, you know what I'm saying, you asked me like what I fucking mean, bro. Asked me. So, you know, leave your perspective in the chat, in the comments, whatever the case. Understand what I'm saying? Damn, like I hope.
Created by Hasbro,
Fuck.
the same company that makes Monopoly and Connect 4.
For real?
Your only line of communication to your relatives is through
Oh yeah, shit, we're still being ghosts, right? This is when, you know, if you become a ghost, this whole thing.
13-year-olds trying to induce a paranormal experience at 3 a.m. I feel like that would get pretty frustrating. Maybe you'd be condemned to haunt a particular location for some reason.
Yep.
Maybe you were murdered in a particular house.
Maybe.
And now you have to spend eternity shifting around items on the counter
Holy
to
shit.
freak out whoever happens to live in that house in the
Yeah.
future. Maybe some guy is being too much of a greedy capitalist on Christmas, and you need to visit him one night and show him visions, teaching him about the errors of his ways, and inspiring him to care more for others during the holiday season. In any of these cases, I think this would be a pretty bad existence. The stuff you're able to do would get really boring really quick.
Yeah.
It's not quite as bad as hell with the whole eternal suffering thing, but I'll still put it in bottom tier.
Bottom tier for the ghostly. You know, and like, come on, bro. Like, let's not act like we don't, you know, hear the stories of like where people, after somebody passes on and shit, you know what I mean? It's like, yo, nah, their soul, you know, still lingers on there and blah blah blah. You know, we gotta do these ceremonies to make sure that they leave in peace, else they're not gonna leave. And then it's like, well, do they want to stay there for all eternity, right? Because okay, they might be like, yo, yeah, nah, this is my last memory. Because I feel like, okay, I might be understanding that version of it wrong, but I feel like they, you know, people that believe it that way come from an angle where it's like that's where their last memory was, right? That's where their last experience was at. So now, you know, they probably just gonna be like lost in that position for like yo, trust me, they'll get bored of being there that whole time. Okay, you know what? I don't know. Let me leave it alone, man. You know what? Matter of fact, quick word from our sponsor, bro. Before y'all look at me in a strange ass way. Hold on.
You take so fucking wet feature. I don't deal with trash and I don't bark either. I'm wearing this my body. Mine and my gazi. I'm feeling tired. Don't you know nobody on me? Still got in the flesh. Put bullshit to rest. Not holding my breath. Nah.